Okay, well, I guess I said I'm going to slow down and show you guys more stuff. So what I'm doing today, or part of what I'm doing today, is installing a brand new battery charger. This is a Boston Whaler, and there's no battery charger on board. And even though it's up on a lift, as you can see here, the two batteries in the back, water gets in the boat every time it rains, and the automatic bilge pumps go off. And one of them was getting hung up, and so what was happening is that the bilge pump was just continuing to run, dying the batteries. Every time he came down, the batteries were dead. So to combat that, I'm installing a battery charger for the batteries to the dock side, and I'm putting a new float switch in and a new bilge pump, and he also has a macerator pump in there that looks like, well, I don't know, it was 106 years old. So we're going to replace that rust bucket right there as well. Look how rusted that thing is. So we're going to be replacing that as well as that float switch right there. The bilge pump seems to be working, I think. We're going to test it, but I think the float switch is getting hung up. So I'll show you that as well. So the most crucial thing when you're installing something new, especially when you're drilling holes and putting screws in, is to kind of know where you're going with it. So I put it right here, but what I did first, because this is out of the way and it's a good surface to mount, but what I did first was I took that screw out there because I know that goes into the fiberglass, but I also didn't want to make pop out on the other side of the name. Theoretically, this should be, I don't know, 3/4 of an inch thick, so you can mount stuff to it. But just to verify, I backed that screw out right there to check the depth of the screw with the depth of my screws that I put in and make sure that I wasn't putting a hole through the other side. And that would be a very costly repair on my end. So I put the ProSport HD20, which is a 20 amp 2-bank, because we've got two batteries. I'm going to hardwire it. I'm going to cut that plug off, and I think I'm going to put the shore power outlet somewhere over in here. So as soon as I figure out where I'm going to put that, I'll do a video of that and show you how it's wired. All right, next step, find a hole saw that fits that. Find a spot. I'm going to put it right above the water. That's where it makes the most sense, and I'll be able to access it. And that panel is only a thin piece of starboard, so it's not that thick, so I should be able to get through it pretty easily. So I'm going to go ahead and make the big attempt and drill a hole, which is what most people don't want to do in a boat, but whatever, we have the technology to fix it. All right, so the hole's in. Next step, I got to put the boot on. Always make sure you do that first, because inevitably, and I've done this a million times before, you wire up this whole thing, and after you cut that off or whatever connection you're making, and you look and you're like, oh God, I forgot to put the boot on. So make sure you put the boot on first and then wire it, and then we're gonna screw it in. I gotta find the screws. They're here somewhere. Okay, so we're all wired up. How do I know what goes where? Well, we got a green screw. That's going to go to the green wire. We got a silver wire, or a silver screw. That's going to go to the white wire. And then we've got a black screw, and that's going to go to the black wire. So make it pretty idiot-proof for you. And just so you know, the green is the ground, the yellow is the neutral, and the red, or the black, is the hot. So that's pretty much it. The boot is on. Just got to screw it in, and then shore power is done. And then I've got to come back over here and just wire up to the two batteries, and then the battery charger is installed, and we'll work around bilge pumps. All right, last step is just to wire up the batteries, which is real easy. See that small red wire, small black wire, small red wire, small black wire. Red goes to red, black goes to black. That's it, they're fused. So we've got our batteries connected, 2 banks, one for each bank that we've got in here, and we've got this mounted nicely there, plenty of room, and then our connection over there. I still can't find the 4 screws, but I do have an extra one of these up in the truck, so I'll run back up and grab the 4 screws out of that other one, and then when I put the other one in, I'll get the new screws for that one, just trade them out. So that's it, battery charger installed. We just got to wire it from there, not wire it, but just plug an extension cord in there to there now, and he'll have dockside power for the battery charger. Next, we're going to work on bilge pumps. He's got one in there, which apparently doesn't work, and then the macerator pump and the bilge float switch down in there, which we're going to work on next. All right, bilge pump replacement. This should have been easy, but just to verify, I started ripping apart the wires here. This looks like a pretty new bilge pump. These are pretty good, and the bilge is filled with water. I checked all these wires. Your black is your ground. One of these is your hot, and then the other one is your override. So you can turn it on manually. So you've got a constant 12 volts on one, and then when you turn the switch on, the power goes to this one, which will turn the bilge pump on. I'm not getting any power here, and I'm not getting any power here, which is a major problem. So that's the reason why this bilge pump probably isn't working. So I don't know if it's getting chewed up by a rodent or what. So I've come back, tried to trace it down. It's almost impossible to trace down. So I've come up here to the panel. Behind here in the panel, I don't know if you can see again, I'm crouching down to get this. And they're mowing the lawn over here, so I'm sorry. So let's see, right up in there, that pin right there, that's positive. So when I've got the switch turned on, I've got 12 volts coming off there. When I turn the switch off, I don't have any power. That goes to this brown wire right here. So now what we're going to do is check continuity from here down to there using my meter. I'll hook it up and show you how to do that. All right, so I've got my black lead, doesn't matter to be perfectly honest with you, tied to the brown wire, which comes down here, goes to my meter. I have it on ohms, or the little beepy beepy thing right there, and I'm going to touch the red side to one of these wires here, and there you go. So that means I have continuity, which means that a rodent didn't eat that wire. Now we've got to test the other two, but now I know which wire is which, and now I can see here that this is brown with a brown stripe, so that is different. They both looked brown before, which was odd to me. So anyway, so now I got to test ground and then test the other one and figure out where the disconnect is here, because I should be getting power down to there. Okay, so now what I've done is I put my probe up here to a known ground. I've wired it down here, and I've taken this probe and I've touched it to here, and I get 12 volts. This other one right here with the switch turned off has 12 volts on it. Let's go 12 volts now. And all right, I'm not quite sure what I did because I'm holding the camera freaking weird. Anyway, 0. If I touch this to here, now I've got 12 volts because I've got a known solid ground. If I come up to this one here, which I just checked before, that's my known constant with the switch turned off. I've got my 12 volts. So as usual, it ends up being a ground and not a positive issue. So I'm missing my ground, which isn't connecting the circuit. So something's wrong with my ground here. So now I've got to figure that out. In a worst case scenario, I'll just run another ground. It's not that big of a deal. So problem solved on this one. We just got to track it down, and then I'll bet you that pump works.
Well, as usual, the owner came down and I got in the middle of working on a bunch of other things with him, so this is as good as place to any because I forgot to do more video. It was mostly just my head stuffed inside a little bilge box to change out the macerator pump, which had completely corroded into a pile of nothing. I got that pulled out and rewired. Now that works and that's solved, and got the bilges cleaned. Again, it was just a bad ground for the bilge pump, so sourced that out, and I just ended up running a new ground wire. A lot of times it's just easier, instead of tracking stuff down, just run a new wire, pull the old one out, and just be done with it. So that's pretty much what we ended up doing, and now the sump pump works. So that's pretty much a wrap on this job on how to install a battery charger, as well as diagnose bilge pumps, ground wires, and everything else. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment below. As always, thanks for watching, and make sure that you guys like and subscribe, because 90% of the people that watch these videos don't actually subscribe to our channel, and it helps us out tremendously on YouTube. So again, thanks a lot for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one.